Well, hello, everybody. This is Joseph Land, and welcome to my show today on the 20th day of March 2023. And we're coming up on Easter, so what an exciting time. Great to have everybody on with us today. I don't know, I have a little hoarse throat. I've been talking too much already this morning, but it's great to have you guys on the call. What I want to do is, first of all, I want to go right directly to you, Dawn, in New York. And I want to tell you that we've been praying for you. I'm sorry to hear about the loss of your mother. And I know you're going through a very tough time. I can't, you can't imagine until you go through it. And I've been through it as well. And so I wanted you to know that we love you and our prayers are with you. Jennifer and I have been praying for you and our whole team here on this call. We're all praying for you and your family. So
thank you.
Let us know if there's anything we can do for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, we love you. You're very, very special to all of us. So anyway, Sean Lord is on the phone up. Sean, can you unmute yourself and say a few words?
Hello, Mr. Land.
Yes.
Thanks for having me. I just heard about your mom, Dawn. I've been praying for you for about a few weeks now, so I'm still going to continue doing that. I'm sorry about the loss of your mother. And yes, I met you, Joseph, from, I think I never met you actually, but I've been introduced to you in the masterminds with Master Lama Rasaji.
Yes.
It's great to be here with you and everyone.
Well, it's great. I'm honored to have you on this show today, and I'm very impressed with you. You're a very sharp young man.
Thank you, sir.
God bless you. I want to go to my friend Dave over in Atlanta. Dave, how are you doing since your surgery on your carpal tunnel syndrome issue?
I'm in physical therapy now, so I got about another 5 weeks of that, a couple times a week and daily on my own. So it's getting better, but it's slow.
That's great. Well, that's great. And, you know, I tell you, that's the thing that I think some people suffer through when they are on the computer too much, right, with their hands and so forth.
Yes. Typically, that seems to be where it comes from.
Yeah. Do you think it'll bother me if I just punch it like that? Like, you know, I'm a pecker. No, I do a little better than that. But anyway, just laughing. But great to have you back, Dave. And thank you for being here. Dave owns a big business over in Georgia and is very faithful to be on our call as we talk about business and life and all the things that we talk about here on the Joseph Land Show. And my dear friend Tracy down in Mexico, originally from Canada. Tracy, I'd just like for you to say hello to everybody. You're such a blessing.
Hello, everybody. And again, Dawn, my prayers are with you too, honey. It's hard when you lose your mom and you become the matriarch, girl. That's what happens. Yeah. Anyway, hi, everybody. It's good to be back. I wasn't here last week. We had another meeting and it's good to see all the faces. It's good to be here. It's good to be brought together. Tom, that was a beautiful prayer, just bringing us together. And, you know, we can fellowship and worship together, and we can also just encourage each other. And Joseph is such an encourager in business and everything. So thank you, everybody, for being here today.
Thank you, Tracy. You're so awesome. We just love you so much. Doug Sherman, how are you doing today?
Doing very good, Joseph.
Good. What are you thinking about? What are you thinking about the crypto markets and all of that? And as it relates to, let's talk about the banking industry a little bit. And Tom Armour, I want you to come on here a little bit too. Let me hear your take on what's happening in the banking industry, Doug. You're a very astute businessman.
Here's what I think. See, that happened to the bank that went down there in Arizona was a regional bank. And the only thing I hope is that these regional banks hold together. Because if people start pulling their money out of these regional banks and putting them in these national banks, that means you only got a few banks controlling everybody's money.
Yeah.
you know, and the next thing you know, they could put conditions on like this, who knows, like the credit system, you know, that credit system they're talking about. So it's scary to me in one respect.
Yes.
But as far as the crypto goes, I don't think it's affecting it very much.
Yeah.
The banking, I see that Bitcoin's pumping pretty good. It's going to be a while though. I don't expect any bull runs in crypto for another year or so. You'll see probably hit some pretty good highs, but I don't think we're going to see a solid market for a while.
Okay.
Nice to see it go up though.
Yeah. You know, one of the ones I like is XRP. And
yeah, I know.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a game changer in the future. And so I'm not as big in crypto as you are, but I wanted you to voice, you know, what you're doing, because you seem to be the expert here in the room. And
I'm not anymore. I'm not. I just listen to some good people. That's all that steered me right. But I love it. I just love crypto.
Well, good. We hold you in high regard, and thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you.
Tom Marmer, you have any comments on what's happening in the banking industry?
Yeah, I think Doug's on the right track, and it was very exciting to see Bitcoin go up this weekend. So that was very, very nice. So all of us that are in that marketplace were excited by that factor, and a lot of other coins went up with it. Some of the coins have gone up, 50 or 100%. Because Bitcoin went up a little bit. So it was kind of exciting to see some movement in the market again. Yeah. And like Doug, I think it's going to be towards the end of the year when we're going to start to see things really take off in the industry again, which is also the typical time of year that cryptos do take off. But the instability in the marketplace is making people look at crypto again, because it's the rest of the market's soft, so people are looking for places to put their money. So I think that's going to happen, and I think what's happening here is one bad bank and also some political stuff in amongst it. It's not all has to do with the market itself. So I think it's the bank that's the problem, not the market.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about why Silicon Valley Bank shut down. Does everybody understand that? You understand, Tom? Do you understand why that happened?
No, go for it, Joe. Let's see what your perspective is.
Silicon Valley Bank was a 16th largest bank in the country, and it also had a branch in Europe. And so a lot of people, a lot of big money investors had their money in that bank. I listened to one guy say he had $60 million in that bank and couldn't get his money. And I guess the government is letting everybody get their money now. But anyway, kind of a scary situation. Mark Cuban had, companies that he was invested in have their money in that bank as well. So what happened is the bank, besides doing some other foolish things that I won't get into as far as a management team is concerned. And listen, when you're, it's easy to be a Monday morning quarterback when you didn't play the game on Sunday, right, or Saturday. And so I don't want to be a Monday morning quarterback, but when you stand back and you look at the situation and you see what management has done with running a business or a bank or a company, you can learn from the mistakes they made. And that's what we all need to do, is learn. So what they did is they took their deposits and of course bought, like many banks do, they bought U.S. Treasury bonds and at a lower interest rate. And as the Fed started raising interest rates, people were able to get better returns elsewhere. And so they started pulling their money out of the bank. Right. And so what Silicon Valley Bank did is they panicked and started selling their treasury bonds to get cash, U.S. treasuries to get cash, and they weren't able to cover the spread. Then they tried to go out and raise money, and that was their demise. So it's really interesting to read and see and watch, and it's amazing how companies that aren't positioned right spiritually sometimes don't do so well. in the long run. You know, maybe in the short term, but maybe in the long run, no. So I don't know. I've just been studying all this. And then you have Credit Suisse, who's been on the ropes for a long time. And recently they needed to raise more money. And the Saudis, who own probably 12% of their company, said, no, we're not giving you any more money. That put them in kind of a tailspin. And then the Bank of Switzerland, UBS, came in to help along with the government of Switzerland. So their stock is way down today. It's been plummeting. And so what people are afraid of is this doesn't, spread and go to other areas. And so, who was that said that on here? What Doug said on here is people start, taking their money out of the regional banks, because of fear. And that probably is not good for the regional banking situation. So I think the best thing we can do is pray and ask God to put us in the right position. I am heavily involved in a regional bank in the Carolinas, and I'm heavily involved in a large bank. So I think you just need to be diversified and do what God tells you to do, and you'll be fine. But I read all this stuff, and I was up late last night reading some stuff about what's happening in the Asian markets and so forth. But what I've come to realize is that I only have control over what I do myself, right? And so if what I do is right before God, then maybe he'll bless me, right? And so only thing I can control is what I do myself, and encourage other people to do the right thing and so forth and so on. But, when you look at Wall Street, it's an animal all to its own. And so I don't think that's going anywhere. And maybe there'll be some banks that go out of business. I don't know. I guess that's why our government has created what we call the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation that allows people's money to be insured, so to speak. But you often have to stand back with the information I got going through this brain and say, can they cover everybody's losses? When does it not work, and so forth. And so I'm a big proponent of having some gold and some silver. I'm a big proponent of being diversified, owning some land. And I've always said that, tangible things. I'm not a big proponent of owning depreciating assets. I'm a proponent of owning appreciating assets. And I'll tell you what is a depreciating asset. I'll use the simple terms. You buy an automobile, and there's nothing wrong with buying an automobile and owning an automobile. But the moment you drive it off the showroom floor, it depreciates in value when you start putting miles on it. It's called a depreciating asset. When you buy gold and silver, if you buy silver at a price and it appreciates, that's an appreciating asset, right? If you buy a piece of land and you buy it for so much an acre and the value goes up, that's an appreciating asset. And I'll tell you where I learned this lesson many years ago. I owned a transportation company. We had a bunch of trucks and trailers, and the moment we would buy 100 new trucks for a value, the moment we started rolling them down the highway, pulling freight, they depreciated in value every year. And it was just a nightmare on the balance sheet. And so a trick I learned to do is buy all my equipment through an off-balance sheet leasing company and let it take the depreciation hit. So there's all kind of tricks you learn in the trade as you go. But I wanted to explain that to you. So we want to be, as individuals, we want to be about investing in appreciating assets, things that appreciate. Does that make sense to you guys? Anybody have any comments about that? Everybody understand that?
Yes, I understand. Thank you.
Yeah, that's why Bobby Bentz, Bobby is a hedge fund trader, has a hedge fund he's on the call. I'm invested with Bobby, Jennifer, and I, and he's knocking it out of the park. And that's why he rides the market up and he rides it down, right? He's a very smart, skillful trader, and he controls it all right where he is. And so sometimes what I've learned, and Bobby can talk about this, and this is not bad or good, and I'm not criticizing anybody, but I've had money in places before that that never paid me a return. I just paid a lot of fees, and it's just frustrating when that happens. And so when I find a guy like Bobby that I can prove that's doing what he's doing, it gets me really excited because he has a pure heart. He wants to help people make money, and he knows that people don't understand how to trade for themselves. I think one of the most dangerous positions you can be in is you try to trade against Wall Street yourself and you don't know what you're doing. That's the quickest way to, if you have 2 million, that's the quickest way to become a millionaire. Instead of having 2 million, having 1 million. So anyway, Bobby, I'd like for you to say a few things about the market today, what's going on today. And so give everybody a kind of a heads up.
Well, I'm doing some shorting today. So that's what I got going on. Sometimes, well, I say this 1,000 times, sometimes you just have to watch the news for exactly what it is, They have to tell you something, and they like to tell you more bad news than good news. And so the big banks, big traders and stuff like that know that, and they feed off that. So basically they feed off the fear of other people. So sometimes when you hear that certain stocks are tanking and people pull their money out, well, when you lose money, somebody else is making money.
Yes.
Always just be wary of where you get your news from, and how liable it is. And remember, there's a bigger story behind the story that you're being fed. And
exactly
so,
right.
Yeah, so sometimes that's why I try to 100% eliminate emotions from trading.
Yes.
So I don't put emotions into any of the trades I make. So.
That's exactly right. You know what? Emotion will kill you in a business. I'll tell you that straight up. Emotion will absolutely kill you in a business. And so you want to trade on the data and the facts. And if you're operating an operating company, you don't want to be emotional about what you're doing. You want to do business on the facts, what you have to work with. That's very, very astute, Bobby. I appreciate that. And I'll let you go back to what you're doing. So I want you to help us all make money.
Yes, sir.
Anyway, it's really cool. I heard somebody, and again, Bobby says there are a lot of people out there. When you hear, my theory is when you hear the news, it's already news. It's over with, and they're telling you that to manipulate you in a lot of cases, as Bobby said. But, and I heard a very, very good investor, a billionaire, say that he expected the Standard & Poor's, S&P 500, to lose 40% by the end of the year. I don't know if that's the case or not, but you might want to have your money in some different places and be diversified if that would be the case. And again, I like gold and silver. I like cash. I like land. I like to ride out and see the land, and that kind of stuff, So, and then the other thing, people always ask me, what is the best investment a person can make? The best investment you can have is a business of your own, a business that generates income, right? And even if you're working a job and you have a side hustle, a business that generates income, man, that's the best investment you can make. When you look at banks and what they're willing to pay you on a CD, like a $200,000 CD, like 1.4% interest. I mean, really? And then there are banks that are willing to pay you 4% on a CD of that large, and give you a $3,000 bonus to move your money to their bank. That scares me too, right? And so if you had a somebody help me here with the math. If you had a $200,000 CD, it was drawing a 1.4% interest. How much money would they pay you yearly on that $200,000? Less $200? Really? And so if you had a business, listen to this. If you had a business that you were doing that was making you $2,000 a month, how much money at today's interest rates, people like to talk about safe investments. This is going to blow you up. So how much money would you have to have in the bank in a safe investment in a CD or something like that to make $2,000 a month? A lot. 2 million. And so what I'm telling you is the most important thing that the most important investment a person can have right now is a business that creates income for you other than what you got. And I know my friend Jeff Gruber's on the phone here, and he has a very prosperous business, very good business, employs a good many people, but he's got something that he's doing on the side that I'm going to talk to him about here in the next month that generates income from him over and above his normal business. And see, I think that's a great investment. And so I encourage people to have something that generates income over and above if they're working a job, what they're doing in a job. And so it's really cool when you see people get that concept and become entrepreneurs. My wife tells me that I'm unemployable. Nobody would ever hire me if I needed a job because I know too much. And, honestly, I told her, I said, well, I never had a job, always had a business. And so the key part for me is to create my own destiny by owning a business that produces income for my family and for other people. I create jobs. I don't want a job, right? And there's nothing wrong with jobs. I just know that if I want to get to where I want to create my own business. Does that make sense to you guys? Anybody have any comments about that? Tom Henderson, you got any comments about that?
Hey, talking about investments, I think the biggest investment you can ever do is invest in yourself. When you're depending on somebody else to make all the decisions, tell you where to live, what car you drive, and everything else, you're at somebody else's mercy. Just investing in yourself is the best investment you can do, and that way you can control your own future instead of depending on somebody else, the highs and the lows. Being your own boss is a double-edged sword. It's the best thing and the worst thing. But I've been my own boss basically for, I don't know, 40 some years, and I wouldn't have it any other way. So
that's great. See, young people need to hear that. Young people need to hear, it's okay to own your business and do that. So thank you for that, Tom. Jerry Llewellyn down in Texas. Jerry, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Joseph. So what a great topic. And I was just laughing because when you were talking about depreciating and appreciating assets, I just laughed because it reminded me of some of your principles that you've shared with me in our mentoring, which is to appreciate assets, to be thankful and grateful for the assets that we have, every dollar in the bank, every opportunity that we have, everything that we can create. So it's the whole darn thing is a powerful concept. I will say also from my personal experience that jobs get in the way. They just plain out are in the way. And I say that from personal experience. My success has gone up since mentoring with Joseph. So I have so much work at what I consider my job, even though I'm a private consultant. Nonetheless, I'm contractually kind of obligated to my clients. And, that gets in the way of my thinking as an entrepreneur, which is to take my business to the next level or to do something else. So it's going to be a little bit of a dance for me. to work my way through a job to, to being a full entrepreneur. But I'm really looking forward to it and enjoying the ride. So thank you, Joe.
Good, Jerry. That's great. I want to teach y'all what Tracy Rayapol has taught me. You know, when you hear somebody saying, wringing their hands and saying, what are we going to do if, something happens to the banks? Well, Tracy's answer to that would be, but God. How but God might intervene, but God might do something and save us. And so, hey, man, I'm not going to worry about something I can't control. I'm going to be smart about it. And I'm going to factor in that God's going to take care of me and my family, and he's going to take care of you and your family. And he always has and always will. And what we need to do is pursue where he wants to be and where he's working. And that's where we need to be. I'll tell you all a story. It's amazing. You guys heard my best friend on this call, Reverend Jimmy Gallant, right? You remember Jimmy? Well, so 3 days, last Wednesday, my wife and I went to church. This is Holy Week. And so we went on Wednesday night. And so after, she was telling me, said, I want to go to Jimmy's church on Sunday. And I said, okay, great. And so Saturday night we go to bed and I say, we're going to church what time in the morning? I said, let's go early. And so I get up really early, and I'll tell you, God worked on me so hard. I woke Jennifer up at about 8 o'clock and I said, get up and starting to get ready. We're going to Jimmy's church today. She said, oh, great. We went to hear Jimmy Gallant, who you've heard on this show. It was anointed. It was totally anointed. And he talks about the things that we're all talking about, worrying about it. He said, why are you worried about the banking business? He said, God's going to provide for you. You can't control it anyway. Why don't you just put your trust in God and ask him to provide for you and your family and take care of you and your family. It was so refreshing. We left there. I felt like I was walking on a cloud, because the fact of the matter is I can be wringing my hands and worried about all this, or I could be trusting, right? And I just choose to trust, do what I know how to do. I do what the Holy Spirit leads me to do, and then trust, right? That's all we can do. And I'm going to learn from those of you like are on this show today. And I hope we all learn from each other. Does that make sense to you guys? Shake your head if it makes sense, right? Okay, great. So today, I want to talk to you about, here's something I want you to write down. This is profound. This is for you, Sean. You will never possess what you are not willing to pursue. Now, I want you to write that down. You will never possess what you're willing to pursue. Do you think Babe Ruth hit 60 home runs years and years and years ago in a year without trying to pursue being the best he could be to hit home runs? No. He was willing to pursue with everything he had so he could do that. You think Richard Petty, they call him the king of NASCAR. You think he won so many races just kind of fooling around with a race car? No, he went out after it with gusto. He pursued it with all his heart. And that's why they call him the king of NASCAR. You think Jack Nicklaus, the great golfer, won so many major tournaments and tournaments all over the world without having the gusto to pursue what he wanted to possess? No, he pursued it with greatness. And so if you're kind of giving a halfway effort to what it is you're mouthing that you want to possess, you're not going to possess it. But when you're giving all you got and asking God to help you do that, you're going to possess it. Does that make sense to you guys? I see people who want to do something, but they're not willing to pursue what it is they want to possess. And that means giving it your all. That means planning. That means working hard. That means getting up early. That means doing the things that are uncomfortable so that you never have to be uncomfortable again. Does that make sense? So that's a good thing to remember. Am I willing to be uncomfortable doing something in a business or something that I've been called to do, so that once I get accustomed to doing it and I get good at it, I'll never have to be uncomfortable again. Think about the people that go to work for a company and they get a cubicle and they don't know how to do their job. What happens? They get trained in how to do their job. And after a while, it becomes comfortable to them, right? And so they're able to possess a great ability in doing that job. Same thing with an entrepreneur. Hey, you are not going to play baseball at a high level if you're not willing to pursue it by taking batting practice every day, running wind sprints every day, taking ground balls every day. You know, you're not going to possess it if you're not willing to pursue it that way. That makes sense to you guys? So I want to give you guys I wrote this down last night. I want to give you my 10 core principles, and I want you to write them down. And so the first thing that I want you to know that I do every morning is I seek God every morning in scripture, prayer, and meditation, right? And then my second thing that I want to do before I start with these 10 core principles is I want to be seen as a consummate gentleman. I want people to think that I'm a gentleman, that I never boast about what I do, but I also don't apologize for my success. Does that make sense to you guys? And so I start out every day with the mindset is I want to seek God first thing in the morning when my feet hit the ground. I want to study the scriptures. I want to pray. I want to meditate. I want to have a quiet time. I want to work on being a consummate gentleman every day. I want to show people acts of kindness by my attitude and the way I address them. And I never want to be seen as someone who is boastful, you know. But for the grace of God, I'm where I am. I never want anybody to think I'm boastful in any way except boasting on God. And I want to never apologize for my success, because my success is a blessing. You use your success to help others. So that's I want to kind of start that with the platform, and I want you to think about adopting that in your life too. But here's the first core principle I have. My attitude determines the altitude that I achieve. My attitude determines the altitude. Have you ever been around somebody with a poor attitude? We all have, right? Do you want to be around that person long? No. Well, let me tell you what happened to me on Sunday. When I was around Jimmy Gallant, and my wife and I, we didn't want to leave him because his attitude, his anointing was so fun and so powerful that his altitude that he reached with what he was saying was just perfectly suited for what we were looking for, right? And so when your attitude is right, it determines your altitude, right? So number 2 is I want to be a servant leader. I hear people in my position who have people that kind of follow them, and they're not available to them. They can't contact them. They can't ask them questions and stuff. And so the reason I do this show is because I want to be a servant leader. I want to give back. I want you to be able to ask me questions, ask others on this show so that we can help one another. What I designed when I started this show is I want us to create our own economy. Each person helping the other through whatever business you create. So the third core principle is being optimistic. You see, when you're optimistic and you're excited about what you're doing, it is a force multiplier. When you're excited about what you're doing and it just exudes through your being, people want to become what you want to be a part of what you're doing. Does that make sense? And so optimism is a force multiplier. All right, that's number 3. Number 4, I want to have an abundance mentality versus a scarcity mentality. Now, I grew up in a poor family. My parents, my dad worked in a mill. My mother was a stay-at-home mom, and she was just awesome. And my parents were awesome, but we had a scarcity mentality. I mean, we just were afraid we wouldn't have stuff. And I really asked God to break that mentality with me and my sisters, and he did, because we've all done very well, and we have an abundance mentality. You see, as Tracy says, but God, but God can do anything, anything. And so how can a guy from a town of 2,500 people play professional baseball and build a $200 million company? But God. A lot of people say, well, you'll never be able to do it, but God. Well, nobody in my town ever made the big leagues, and nobody's going to ever draft you either, but God, right? So I've applied what Tracy has taught me. When somebody says something to me to try to put me down, in my spirit, I say, but God. You have just tried to take away my force multiplier, which is my spiritual walk, right? And so abundance mentality, I look at the banking situation. We discussed that here on the show today. Hey, God owns all the money and all the banks. He controls it all. Some of these people think they might, but when they die, where does that money go? It goes on to the next person who might be faithful. That's where it goes, right? And so God can wait, and he can be patient till he finds the right person, like a King David, who's willing to have a heart for him, right? So number 5 is respect. If you want respect, you need to give it. If you want somebody to respect you, you need to give it. I try to be respectful for everybody. I, like all of you, I work very diligently for my family. And on Sunday, it just aggravates me to no end when somebody wants to text me and talk about business. And I shouldn't be that way. I should be respectful, but they should be respectful of my time as well. And so for me to respect them would be for them not to text me on Sunday, on my Sabbath, wanting me to talk about business, because I don't do it. And I just don't reply anymore. I just don't reply. When they text me, I turn my phone off. And when the sun goes down, I might reply, right? And so in order to have respect, you need to give respect, all right? So that's number 5. Number 6, this is a great one. Refuse to gossip. Just refuse to gossip. If you're around people and they start gossiping about someone, I want to teach you what I do. It's called reverse gossiping. Oh, well, Tom Armour is not such a good guy. I said, well, you know what? I met Tom Armour. He's a great guy. I don't think the world of Tom Armour. I love his wife. I love Tom. I've known Tom for years. He's a great guy. That's called reverse gossiping. When you can say something good about somebody, you just turn the whole situation around. Well, I don't know about old Joseph Land, man. He had that trucking business, I don't know about that guy. Well, I know about him because I'm on his show every day, and he's telling me about the Lord. He's a good man. He's a good man. God has done wonders in his life. See, when you start reverse gossiping, it diffuses the whole situation. And my mother used to tell me, my mother was a saint. She said, you're the sum of your 5 or 6 friends that you hang out with. And so hang out with those people who are going somewhere, who are seeking God first in their life. It's so true. And people say, well, I thought I was going to get on your show to hear about business. You are. You are. You're hearing about business my way. And my way is, hey, man, when you put God first, you're going to have a great business. All right. So refuse to gossip and reverse gossip. Everybody know how to reverse gossip now? My mother said, pick out something good in that person and say something good about them, or keep your mouth shut. All right. So number 7, be professional. Be professional. When you're dealing with people, be professional. Look the part. If you want to be successful in what you do, act the part, look the part, be professional. I had a young man contact me this morning and said, Mr. Land, I've never met you. And he said, I own a small transportation company, and I would love to be able to buy you lunch just to get some ideas from you. And I said, son, I will be glad to have lunch with you, and I will buy your lunch, because if you're that diligent in trying to find out from somebody who's already done it, I want to teach you everything I know. And he was silent. He said, what? He said, I've never had anybody tell me that. He said, you're not afraid you might tell me too much? I said, no, I'm not in the transportation business. I want to tell you everything I know. I want you to be successful. He said, wow, that's refreshing. And so when we're professional and we treat people with professional courtesy, and we look the part and we act the part, and we respect them and we are kind to them, then we're able to impart something to them. And guess what? I'm looking forward next Tuesday to learning something from this young man, right? We can learn from each other. And when you have a professional approach about things, you can learn from another. But when you know everything, you don't learn from anybody, right? So be professional. The 8th thing, my core principle, 8th thing, is that as I tell myself, hey, I'm getting better every day. I might be aging, but I'm getting better at what I do every day. You know what? I'm honing my skills every day. I'm getting better at what I do every day. And what you say is so important when you're speaking it out loud, or to yourself or to anybody. What you say is very important. And so every day I'm saying, hey man, I'm getting better at what I do every day. I've been doing this for a good while, but I'm getting better at it every day. And so the 9th thing is I tell myself, you can play small. Joseph, you can play small or you can play big. Choose to play big. Choose to play big today, right? I remember my father used to tell me, he says, son, this is a great team y'all playing today. He says, they got a great pitcher. And he said, but I want you to go out there and play big. He said, I want you to hit a couple home runs today. That's what he would always say to me. He would always say, he said, I want you to play big. He said, you play with a big heart. He said, if you strike out 4 times and don't get a hit, that's good to me as long as you're playing big. He said, but when you go up to that plate and you think you're going to strike out, you're going to strike out. He said, but when you go up to that plate and think you're going to hit a home run, you're playing big. And he said, your time's coming as long as your mindset is you're playing big. And so I took that same approach into my transportation company. So what's this? So I borrowed $50,000 and I'm working at a 1-room truck stop, and all my friends are telling me, hey man, you are never going to be successful doing that. You don't know anything about it. You're not going to be successful. See, that's what people tell you. They don't mean anything by that, but they don't know what else to say, because you have done something out of the box to do something different for your family, and you're not swimming in the stream with the rest of the fish. And so I just decided to play big. Hey, what have I got to lose? I got nothing to lose. I'm so broke I can't pay attention. I want to be successful, right? And so after about 7 years, all those people were wanting to have jobs in my company, right? And so whatever you've been called to do, play big. You can choose 2 ways: play small or play big. I choose big. How many people want to play big? All right. So the last thing is number 10. Hey man, just play to win. Just play to win. You're not going to win every day, but if you have a defeatist mentality, you're going to be defeated. But if you have a winning mentality, hey, I'm going to win. I was in Dallas recently with my daughters, and I was shooting basketball in the driveway with my 6-7-year-old grandson. And he was just beating the pants off of me, you know, when the game of horse. And I said, and all of a sudden that play in the wind kicked in with me. And I said, man, I got to beat this little guy. And so he finally let me win, but I could feel it. You know, you can just feel it when you're playing to win, right? And so it's just so cool to have a grandson, and it's so cool to watch him be involved in sports, and to see him playing to win, right? I mean, he's got that cutthroat mentality. He's going to beat you with the ball, and I see that passed down through maybe the genetic force. But anyway, playing to win is the 10th thing that I want you to adopt as a core principle, maybe. So how does that suit you guys? What do you think about those 10 core principles? Jerry, what do you think?
Well, Joseph, I'm just sort of humbled to see the great summary that all of that is. And, you know, that's a list for a lifetime. And I really appreciate the journey that you've taken to, you know, inform us of this and to give us the examples of what those things mean. That was very well put. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I want to give a shout out. Mark Chuazon, Mark and Doris are our partners. They work for JL Capital, and they represent us, and they do a great job. And they do all the posting of social media. And a lot of times you'll see the replay of this show. It's all done by Mark Chu and his wife Doris. And Mark is just such a great guy. And I wanted you to know that a lot of the postings you see from our show and different things, it's Mark's creative ability and ingenuity, or whatever you call it. And so I want to give him a shout out today. And so sometimes he takes quotes that I say here on the show and uses them, and people will call us and write us or whatever and say, "Guys, that was amazing. That was wisdom." But I give Mark a lot of credit for all that. But I guess today's thing that I want you to take away from here is simply this: you will never possess what you are not willing to pursue. Not going to happen. But if you decide, I'm going to pursue this, you will possess it. But you got to decide, and you got to develop your own core principles, and you got to have things that you tell yourself every day. Hey, I have an abundance mentality. My God is an abundant God. He can provide exceedingly abundantly above all I can ask or think. Hey, I'm gonna be respected because I'm gonna give it. Right? I'm gonna be a servant leader. I'm gonna be the most positive, optimistic person in the room when everybody's being negative. Force multiplier, right? And so guys, just play big and play to win. And I love you guys today, and I thank you for joining my show. Does anybody have any questions for me today?
My name is Daisy Lee. I don't see my picture up there, but I feel it's very important for you to know who's on the site as well on your Zoom. And I really appreciated what you were saying here. I really enjoyed it. I want to thank Sean for inviting his aunt, Daisy Lee. And each of you had such very valid points of view. And I was looking for a type of Zoom that'll help me with my collector's mentality, which I have not started. And I love your 10 core principles, Joseph. That's really nice. And I will use it. And if you don't mind, I would love to come back and continue, because I'm sure I can get good advice from you and the rest of your team here. And sure. I am recently retired. So wonderful. This will be great for me.
Wonderful. We do this every Monday at noontime. And thank you, Sean, for inviting. Thanks, Sean, for inviting you. And just invite as many people as you can. We want to have as many people on here. We have so many wonderful comments that come to us because we record it and people see it all over the world. We have people in Pakistan and all that who are listening to our recordings. I have one young man that I mentor. He lives in Africa. He's a currency trader. So it's amazing the reach that we can have because God provided the internet for us, right? And we can be a positive force for good. So thank you for that beautiful comment. I really appreciate it.
You're quite welcome, but do you know why my picture is blanked out?
Why is that?
No, I have no idea. I'm asking.
No, I don't. No, I don't. Maybe hit that, go down at the bottom and try your video again. Anybody else have any comments today? Don?
Question about the banking, because when you said people panicked and took their money out, I was one of them. I don't have that much cash in the bank that I use to pay bills and stuff, but I took it out and I asked on Mastermind webinar about that, about, do you leave your cash in because of what happened with the banks and stuff? And, the advice was just find a bank that pretty much has been around and survived, maybe the 2008 financial issue, and survived the depression. You want to stay with a bank, possibly a community bank. So I just got like all confused, I'm like, so I got to do my due diligence and find a bank that I trust. And what kind of questions would you ask a bank before you decide to put your money in and use them? So if anyone can give advice on that.
Well, if it's a public bank, you can read their quarterly reports. And that's what I do. I look at their deposits, and I look at all the things. I look at their management team. I look at their market share and all that. And so I just encourage you, if you're going to put your money in a publicly traded bank, you want to read their quarterly reports. That would be the thing I would suggest you do. And I'm not going to tell you, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not going to tell you what to do. But you know what? People say, well, gosh, the dollar's not going to be worth anything. Well, maybe it won't. Maybe it won't be worth anything. But until then, I'm going to try to collect as many of them as I can in my business so that I can use them to buy stuff like real estate and other things, right? And so I'm going to let God decide all that. I'm going to be diligent. I'm going to listen to good counsel, and I'm going to do things like you're talking about, Don. When I put my money somewhere, I want to know that, that they're legit and they're really trying to take market share and do some of those things. But the end result is we don't have control of it. Let's just be diligent and let's trust. And let's trust God to protect us and provide for us. I'm going to tell you, I didn't have any money in Silicon Valley Bank, and I didn't have any money in Credit Suisse. So thank you, Lord, for protecting me from that. So that's my attitude, right? I'm going to be very optimistic. Any other questions today? Thank you for that, Don.
Thank you.
Yes, I have a question.
Okay.
My question is regarding communication. I'm interested in learning how to read kind of the language of the person that I'm talking with, or the people I'm talking with, if I'm doing a public presentation. And I'd love to know what's your tips, because I really feel that you're really good at communicating.
Is this Sean talking?
Yes, this is Sean.
Okay, so you want to know how to talk to people?
Yeah, in a way, how to speak their language, even if we're both speaking English, how to speak the language that they understand.
Okay, a lot of times people make a mistake in the sales business. I used to have a bunch of salespeople that worked for my transportation company. And people don't want to know how much you know until they know how much you care, right? And I would teach my sales staff, don't go out and start telling them how great we are, or how great you are, and all that stuff. Start asking them questions about themselves. How are you guys doing? How's your family doing? Did you see the ball game the other night and all that? And then you can start telling them things about our company, right? But when you start, when somebody knows that you care about them and they want to hear you talk about them, except other than the fact that you're there to try to get freight from them, they say, well, gosh, this is a likable guy. Maybe I need to give him some business kind of thing. And so it's all about people skills. I will tell you, Sean, when I started my transportation company, I was a graduate of the business school. I'd been to law school. I was a very well-educated guy. but I didn't know jack diddly about dealing with people. And what I realized right away that I was not in the transportation business, I was in the people business. And somebody gave me a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People, and it changed my life. And now I read that book every year, whether I need to or not. I read that book every year because I want to be really good at dealing with people and edifying people and loving people and encouraging people so that they know that I care. And when they know that I care, if I ever need to ask them something about business, they'll listen, right? Is that helpful?
Yes, that's tremendously helpful. Thank you very much, Mr. Land.
Yeah, and if you want to do an offline call on that, I'll talk to you about your business and how I can help you structure what it is you say to get the result you're looking for.
Thank you, sir. I'm currently a self-employed person. I don't have a business yet.
Okay. Okay, great. Well, great. It's great to have you on the show today, and I thank you for that. Jeff Gruber, I hate to put you on the spot. You got anything to say today, Jeff? This is a great businessman right here.
Hey, Joe. Yeah, I appreciate it. No, I really love the list. I've heard them all before, but, you know, it's always good to hear it again.
Good.
You know, so, yeah, that was awesome. But, yeah, I think it's true that you have to be willing to do what it takes to be, you know, successful in whatever thing you're doing. And don't let, you know, people discourage you because, you know, a lot of them will try to.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's
yes.
And you kind of learn through, you know, trial and error.
Well, that's great. Thank you, Jeff. And I look forward to visiting with you when you come to Charleston.
Yeah, but I'll be there in April.
Good. Well, anyway, guys, thank you for joining me today. If there are no further questions, we're going to stop the show right now, and we'll stop the recording. Hold on just 1 second, please.